My name's Jayne Warrilow, and I run Jayne Warrilow International, which is a collaborative coaching organization that works across the world with executives, leaders, and coaches. I have a new brand called Resonant Coaching, which really expresses my passion in the world, which is all about bringing resonance to organizations, to executives, to leaders, and teaching coaches how to integrate resonance as a driver of organizational change and individual and personal growth. Okay, well, resonance really, I mean, at its very heart, it's an invitation to all of us. That's what I feel about it. And resonance is really speaking to the way that we show up energetically before we even say a word, because we're all very intuitive, and even if we're not aware of our own energy per se, when we actually show up to life, our energy really begins the conversation before we even say a word. And everybody's always reading energy, you know, we're always reading each other. And so it's kind of interesting to me that we're not always conscious and intentional, mindful about what it is that we're actually saying or how we're showing up. So the first piece is internal resonance, which is how am I showing up really in my energy? How authentically aligned am I in terms of physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? Is that all attuned to the way that I want to show up in my authentic self, from my core self? Because there's a lot of us that have kind of forgotten our core self in a way. And what we're doing is we're showing up into a world that wants us to be something else. So we've kind of lost ourselves somewhere along our socialization, our education process. So the first thing is coming home to your core self. And then resonance then, so it talks about an internal alignment, but then once that's in place, it's then really moving to the external. And how am I resonating with somebody or something else? Now, the obvious thing to look at first is in relationship with somebody else, you know, what's happening in the space in between us? And, you know, how can I get mindful? Because resonance is that alignment, that attunement between me and my energy field and somebody else's. Because that's where the magic really happens. So resonance is really about collaboration. It's about how you become open in your energy field to allow yourself to collaborate with somebody else. But it's also about things. So, you know, we're all in relationship with, say, our professional career or our business. And that's also an alignment that needs to happen. How do you open yourself to your business? Because one of the things I've noticed is that, you know, even for myself, I notice how much of my life I spend closing my energy field for different people, different environments, different things trigger me, and my energy field closes. Now that's fascinating to me. What are we closing around? What's that about? And how do we open? Because one thing I do know is when we open, that's when the magic happens. That's when the energy really comes in and we really get connected to a wider field and something that's just bigger than ourselves. And that's really when, you know, the unimaginable happens. And I've seen it happen with my executives, with my coaches, with my clients, and I've seen it happen in global corporations when leaders start to harness the energy of an organization. It's exponential. When you're not resonating clearly as a, and I mean this very scientifically speaking, as a strong, clear vibration in the world, when you're sending out confused signs and signals, it's just noise, basically. And, you know, this is what happens. There's a lot of noise in the environment and people get confused around you because they don't know whether they can trust you or not, because it's almost like the conflicting energy that you're showing up with in your presence is what you're communicating. So they don't know whether you're here or what's going on. And so people just fail to trust you. They fail to connect with you. They know that something's offline and they don't understand necessarily what it is. And they may not even be conscious, but they pick up things like we have in our idiom, in our language, we have things like somebody who has a chip on their shoulder or a bull in a china shop. These are all people that are showing up confused in their energy and not intentional about, because nobody wants a chip on their shoulder, but they're not aware of it, you see, they're not conscious of it. So it just literally sends out, it means you're sending out noise, confused signals. And so people, you know, and if you're in business, that's kind of a problem. because people can't trust you. And in the marketplace now, if there's no trust, there's no relationship. So, you know, for me, resonance is the relationship. So it's all about that ability to connect. But it's not just, because the other thing is now, I think, the marketplace is not transactional anymore. People just don't want to buy things. They want to buy things that are meaningful. They want to belong to a brand now. So we've gone to a deeper space in terms of our business. So, you know, it's not just professionally, but personally too. You know, you really want to be sending out a strong, clear vibration. But the other thing to say is resonance is not a destination, because the most exciting thing about resonance is it's continuous. You are changing in every moment. So it's really strongly connected to presence, because, you know, I can be here like I'm talking to you now, my body's here, you know, but am I really here? Because there are some people where their bodies are in the room, but actually, you know, the lights are on, but there's no one home. So that's the other piece. Are you actually in your life? Have you claimed your life? You know, have you claimed your business or your profession or your career? Are you there? You know, it's as simple as that, really. Because if you're not, how can you expect anybody else to show up? But there is a first step for all of us, and that is in raising our awareness, in awakening to ourselves and our lives, really. It's about how do we... So the question for everyone, I think, listening to this is, you know, how do you open? And how much of your life do you spend in that open sense, which means that you are there and that you're available and that you're willing really to stand with the unknown. So there's one thing I talk about, which is called the learning field, Helen. And we all live on a place in this learning field. And most of us, because of our socialization, our education systems, has actually got us to live on the side of the learning field where we know. Here on this side of the learning field, this is where I'm very confident in my knowing. It's kind of my comfort zone in a way, because this is where I know things. So I feel confident here because I know. You know, and it's kind of definable, it's clear in some ways because I'm in my knowing here. But resonance really is an invitation to walk across the learning field to the other side where I don't know. So in this space where I don't know, then what is it that I'm open to happening? And if I'm in the space where I don't know, do I close in fear, trying to protect myself, which is really a knee-jerk and a primal reaction? Or am I able to stay open when there's uncertainty and ambiguity around me? So this is something to watch in yourself. You know, notice how far across the learning field are you willing to walk? Because that really is about, you know, knowing yourself and knowing your own energy and knowing what you can and can't do, but then letting go of attachments, letting go of what you know, and being open to really allow your life to emerge through you. And that's a very different relationship with life than most of us are living. We're living the life we think we should be. It might be the life our parents or our teachers or our peers or our friends or our spouse thinks we should be living. And most of us have kind of let go of what really matters most to us. So it is about reconnecting at the core, but living a life of resonance, which is what this is really about, is about getting out of your head and into your body and living every moment, you know, because in every moment you have the opportunity to be resonant. And in every moment you have the opportunity not to be. And when you raise your awareness, it becomes a choice, so that you're not just showing up and you're not sure what's going on. You know, you are actually being more mindful and intentional about how you show up and how you connect and how your life and how you allow your life to emerge through you. Because it's interesting, a lot of clients come to me and coaches too, and they're saying, you know, I want you to teach me about resonance. I don't need to teach anybody about resonance, because we're all resonant. You know, it's a primal state of being. You're born resonant, you will die resonant. The only question is, will you find the space in between those two places to ever become resonant again? So it's about unlearning. It's not about learning new skills and tools and techniques. It's about getting back to you at your very core. People are not aware of their thinking in that way, and how and it is really how sophisticated we've become in our thinking, because we can delude ourselves. You know, we take on, and the thing is, a lot of our thoughts are not conscious either. Most of them aren't. And so it can be startling. I know when I run retreats, and you know, we actually get people to just go inside and see what their thoughts are running. People get really shocked that there isn't just one person, there isn't just a me inside, but there's someone behind the me that can actually watch the thoughts that are running. And the thoughts are crazy. They're just like crazy, running all the time with this constant monologue of stuff that's going on. And then people get really shocked and say, I've not just got one person in there, I've got like a crowd. And you know, and it's kind of funny, because we all have, when you stop and listen to what's going on in there and you get a bit more conscious about it, you start to realize that we're all crazy. Really, life is crazy. The way we've set it up is completely mad. It's completely mental, you know, but that's when we shine the spotlight on it and go, okay, now if we are going to get more intentional about this, you know, and if you were in a relationship with somebody who was doing this to you all the time, would you stay in that relationship? And the answer for most people is no, I wouldn't. But it's not about closing it down either, because there's always a positive intention behind some of those quite negative, sometimes aggressive, critical thoughts in our heads. But it's about embracing them and understanding what it is, and it's actually all connected to the energy and how we try and protect ourselves. So if we can recognize the protective voice, we can recognize the other things, we can acknowledge and accept that, and then we're free then to make a choice about, well, we know this is happening, but what is it we want to do from this place? Because now this is mainstream science. This is, we're moving away from Newtonian physics now into this new quantum area of physics, which is showing that everything is waves. You know, which means that we are all an open flow system. We're all highly interconnected and highly dynamic. And so once you start to bring that to your life, how do you live more like a wave than a particle, which was what we were all taught at school, you know, which is that place on the learning field where everything's discrete and defined and clear and known. Well, no, life is now becoming much more of a wave, because we're realizing that we'd actually, it's not that the old physics was wrong, it was just a very limited worldview. The interesting thing is, we think we're afraid of change, but actually change is what supports us in our life, because we are constantly changing. Our physical body is constantly changing. Every 7 years we are not the person we were 7 years ago. And this is what's so exciting, because literally in every moment you have the opportunity to be intentional about who you are and how you show up. And so this idea of change being a scary thing is just an illusion again, because we are change in motion. Life is energy in motion. We're changing all the time. Try and live in a way that's static, you're wasting your energy, because you're trying to force. It takes force to actually try and stay static, because actually your life leads you naturally into change. An energy crisis. You know, nothing more, nothing less. I mean, it's global as well. It's not just at the individual level or the country level or the organizational level. It's actually worldwide. You know, the world has its own energy crisis, you know, but also it's kind of pervading down all levels. And I think we've come from this place where we've not been that conscious about how we use our energetic resources. And I'm talking at all levels here. I'm not just talking to the global warming. I'm talking at an individual level, at an organizational level, at a family level, whatever it is. And I think it's time to bring that awareness back. So what we're experiencing right now is nothing less than chaos and confusion, because this is the noise we've created. But look how powerful we are. We've created a huge noise and a huge chaos, which means we also have the power to recreate a different reality. And I think that's where we are now. I think we are at a, I don't know whether it's a crossroad, but I feel that we're at a threshold where the way that we've been doing things just isn't working anymore. And more of us are coming to that realization that just, you know, what we've been doing just isn't going to take us into a great future, let's say. So I think there's a lot of us waking up to the realization that something needs to change. And the other side of that is that I think we're also beginning to awaken to a different relationship with life. I think the speed of technology, the speed of change, the complexity in which we all live now has taken us to a place where, you know, it's almost like, so with my executive clients, where you went to business school, even your nationality now with us going global, has meant that, you know, who we thought we are is not as important anymore, because suddenly when we're in a global environment, which we all are now, you know, with the internet, now we're in a global environment, the things we thought were really important, when we speak to people cross-culturally, we realize they have different priorities. So everything we thought we were is not actually who we realize we are. So I think there is an awakening that's happening to this deeper level of conversation and this deeper relationship with life. And that there's quite a lot of people now that are getting more intentional, more conscious, and waking up really to what is it that I want from this life. And it starts individually with self-responsibility. And I think that's probably the only way this is going to, or we're going to transform the world, because the chaos we have right now is too big for any one of us to hold or do by ourselves. And I think it's a time that we come together. It's like we're moving out of the I conversation that we've been in before. It's like the pendulum swung the other way now. And we're realizing that it's a we conversation that we need to have, which is the wave, you see. We've come out of particle, which is clearly defined individuals, all kind of working and living as isolated individuals, into this place of we. So we need to collaborate, we need to come together, we need to find the synergy, and we need to find our voice, whatever that might be. And I see that happening. You know, I see it happening in organizations. Now, organizations are more about being communities than they are about just selling a product to a market. So it's about this community and how we co-create our future, because we're beginning to realize we all have a voice, we all have a part to play in this new future. And so I don't think any one of us has the solution, but I think all of us together, you know, I don't talk about the organizations that are not getting it, because in some ways they're the dinosaurs. That's what's going to be leaving, you know, the planet in a way. So we need to highlight those companies, those organizations, and those individuals that are getting this, that are evolving into this new shift, this new curve that's coming. And it's already happening. It's already happening. I know through my clients, and I also know about once you open a space for people to come together and co-create, they naturally move in. It's like lighting a touch paper. People want to have a voice. They want to be seen and heard. And I think now is the right time for us to come together and see, you know, it's really when we come together, 2 + 2 = 5, not 4, because the energy gets exponential. And we can use each other's ideas to build something unimaginable. And I think that's where we are right now. We need to come together in a very deep way, in deep dialogue, and listen to what it is that's most important for us. And realize that no one person can hold this. We can only do this together. And the other thing about the word together is, for me, global has given us all this invitation to come together now, and we have the technology to do it in real time where we haven't had it before. So it's like it's this great unifying force, this technology, you know, that can actually enable this coming together in a way that we haven't had before at any other time in history. That would be my sense of this, is that we're kind of coming of age in a way, and this is something I talk about a lot in the coaching profession, because I feel the coaching profession is at that threshold now. It's kind of gone through adolescence and we're now coming of age, and at this point of coming of age, it's kind of a question for everybody who's on the world right now and who's in any kind of profession is, are you ready to take self-responsibility and go beyond ego and live into the higher energy vibrations, to really realize that there's more of an authentic expression here but you can't do it alone. You know, to go to the higher energetic levels, life becomes about more than just you and what you want. It becomes about attuning to the higher frequencies, to opening, to waking up, to bringing that level of awareness to life, and to do it in a way that, you know, as humans, it means living the whole of human experience. You know, and that means fully living it in our bodies, fully feeling it in our emotions, you know, and using our intellect to actually take us forward with new innovative ideas. And then the spiritual energy of how are we connected to something that's bigger than ourselves. And if you take a step back, it's really easy to do, because you just get a sense of, you know, okay, I'm one human, but I'm currently sat in a chair that's being supported, that's in a ground, that's in Orlando, Florida, that's like a little pinprick on the huge of the world. But also I can look at it that way and go, look how much space is above me in the sky and the ground below me. And then you can look at, you know, the time space. You know, we're in the midst of evolution. We are evolution in action. That's what we are. So what are we going to do about this, you know? And what am I going to do about this? Not just we, because that can opt some people out, but what am I going to do with the time that I've been given in this lifetime? And how am I going to live, for me, a seriously fulfilling life? What does that mean? Am I going to contribute? Do I want to contribute? Do I want to be part of this bigger shift or not? But at least I'm asking the question. And it doesn't matter whether your answer is yes or no. It's just that you've asked the question. You've given yourself the opportunity to make a conscious choice here. And some people are ready and some people aren't. And that's okay. You know, the first thing is to ask that question. That's my passion in life, is going around asking people, you know, do you want to wake up or not? You know, it's up to you. Are you ready to awaken? And if you feel you're ready, then there's a deeper question, which is, are you really ready? Because underneath that, there's a lot of people who think that they're ready, but the truth is, like we talked about earlier, most people are not really ready for significant transformational change, because it means walking across that learning field to the other side. It means letting go of everything you think you are. It means letting go of the past and the worries about the future, and actually being here right now in this moment. So the first thing is to ask yourself if you're ready. And you'll get this sensation. It won't just be something in your head. It'll be like an evolutionary impulse that's in all of us, that'll start to come from somewhere within your gut. So notice that. And there'll come a point when you're ready for change, and that point is the point at which you know that you can't not do this now. This is your calling. You can't not answer this thing that's going on, because if you do, you know that the life that you're going to live from now on is just going to be a pretense if you don't follow this calling. So the first thing is listen to what your callings are, because they're in there. You know, they're not outside of you. There's no trumpet sound saying, hey, Jane, you're being called in this direction now. You get into your body and you get a sense of this calling. And then you know then that you need to walk across the learning field, because at that point, you're not going to know what's going to be happening next week, next month, next year. It's about letting go and allowing your life to emerge through you. And then what I would suggest is get into community with other people who are on a similar calling or a similar path, because it's tough being, you know, allowing life to emerge through you. And if you can find like-minded people, if you can find those kindred spirits that are going to hold the space for you when you can't hold it for yourself anymore, and we all get there, people who are alive in their energy. That's what we need, because right out there, it's like the Walking Dead. You know, it is. There are so many people walking around and they're asleep. So do you want to wake up? And if you do, then great, come and play with us. Because that's what we're doing. And it's great and exciting, and it's certainly very alive in the energy. It's a very different relationship. Okay, well, if you go on to resonantcoaching.com, there is a there's like an assessment and evaluation there that you can take to see how resonant you are right now in your life. So that's great, because in a way, you know, we're not conscious, and it's just a tool to help you get a bit more conscious about where you're up to in your energy. And so, and I also on there, my first program is very intentionally called The Invitation, because that's what it is. It's an invitation to resonance. So, you know, and we have communities of people on there that come together to actually support people who are ready to wake up, who are ready to move into this life of resonance. And resonance, once you get into it, you realize it's not heavy stuff. It actually is all about enjoying life, because it's about coming more alive, whatever that means for you. So there's that. And then if there are any coaches listening, one of the key things that I'm doing as part of this awakening process is to really make a call to coaches, because coaching is a profession I love, I really do. And I believe that coaches can be, if they choose to be, the facilitators of this new energy dynamic that's happening. And I believe that there's a lot about resonance that coaches need to think about, you know, not just what's happening in the physical, but what's happening beyond the words. And so if you go to radicalconversations.com, we're running a conference. It's free. It's in service of the industry. It's happening May 21st to 25th for the International Coaching Week this year. And it really is, we've got 15 thought leaders. But what's exciting about this conference is these are not thought leaders that are going to tell you their stuff and you're going to listen passively. We're engaging them in panel conversations, in deep questions for the coaching industry, evolutionary questions, identity questions, global questions, questions about integration. And we're getting the panel to talk for about 45 minutes. And then we have the technology to break everybody who calls in into groups of 5 so that we can actually co-create a more intentional future for the coaching profession. So for me, it's all about radical conversations now. It's, are we ready to get radical? And radical can mean, for some people, revolutionary. And that's one sense of it. But radical as a word actually means foundational, going back to the root of all things. And that's why I love it as a word, because actually, although it feels radical to have a radical conversation, it actually means going back to the core, the very core. And so I think this is what we're all entering into now in different ways, is getting radical with ourselves. And that takes us, it's one of our first steps to resonance. You know, are we radical enough to actually come back to what matters most to us? And so that's what the conversations are all about. So we've got people calling in from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, and the US. So people are coming in from all over the world, which is fabulous in itself to hold global conversations in real time.
It's been absolutely, wow, it always is.
I love talking to you, Helen.
I just love the technology that allows us and enables us to have these sort of conversations with you sitting in Florida and you sitting here in Brussels.
I know.